Hello, everybody, and welcome to Apostate Coalition. Tonight, we're tackling the topic of logical fallacies and their correlation to the bad faith arguments made by the Jehovah's Witnesses in recent investigation findings in New Zealand. Can you believe it? Yeah, we're going to go over deep dive. I know this is our third episode, but I feel like I've been learning a good bit. And that's why I want to pass it on over to the doctor, because she's the one who knows. Oh, and yeah, welcome to our guest. Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hello there, stranger.
Damn it, I thought y'all wouldn't notice me. I was just going to sneak in the background.
Look at Tyler.
Tyler, you've changed.
He's resurrected.
Yeah, I've gotten much taller. Yeah.
I know.
Well, Tyler may still join us. I don't know. He said maybe. He may have some scheduling conflicts, and Alpha Sub definitely had some scheduling conflicts today. So, thank you.
So I'm the sub. I'm subbing for.
Thank you, Alpha. sub, the Alpha Sub.
I love the view.
Yeah. So we appreciate your perspective, of course, because, XJ-Dub, we, sometimes we get in our own little, world. So we appreciate the other ex-fundy kind of perspective. And, just shaking things up. Are you familiar at all with what's going on in the J-Dub land as far as New Zealand? Have you ever heard of Australian Royal Commission and all that stuff?
I have not, so I would love to hear about this.
Yeah, me too. Let's go. I'm just kidding.
Well, in my male opinion,
could you maybe mansplain it to me? That'd be great.
Yes, exactly. Australia is a large continent. Okay.
Yeah. So, what's going on in New Zealand is similar, I think, to what kind of was going on with Australia, but I guess they did I haven't read it yet. The report, I think, just came out today. I don't know. New Zealand's a different time zone, so either way, I could be right.
Either a day or two ago.
But they essentially did a nationwide research and study on abuse in religion and who is a problem, what the problem is, and how they can work on solving these problems. And right now they're just calling things out. And so they have a report that's kind of detailed out what they found across the board. Really just, I think, comparing all of them to the same template, just for harm reduction, right? Like that's literally all we're looking for here. And while it seems that most of the religions seem to have just accepted that this is what's going on and they will hopefully work on it, Jehovah's Witnesses have been doing nothing but lobbying to the legislature or government or judicial, whoever, that no, please don't include us in that report. Please just don't include our part. Thank you. It will make us look bad, and we don't want that. And so they have been denied
Your
that.
Honor, I object, because it is devastating to my case.
Exactly. That is exactly it. And it's pretty frustrating for everyone to be watching it, because we all know how much harm has been caused, and it just seems like not only are they not willing to accept the fact that they do have policies in place that are clearly allowing abuse to occur, and also setting up abusers to have a wide range of prey at their disposal. It is more important to prioritize predators' redemption than it is the harm that was caused to victims. And even a lot of victims have been how do I say this? Blamed for all the problems. And really what's going on is all the victims are leaving and all the predators are staying. So really hoping that the people who are still in will know about this. And that's, I think, the number one thing that the Jehovah's Witness organization does not want to have happen, is for the people who are still in to find out about it. So they're really hoping to hush that the fuck up. And I'm hoping that it doesn't seem like they're going to win. Thank you, New Zealand. I've always known that I should just live there. But yeah, it's we were kind of looking at some of the arguments that they were having as far as why they should not be part of this report, and trying to kind of pick through their responses in line with our conversation that we've been having the last couple weeks about logical fallacies, cognitive biases, those kinds of things. And so, yeah, that's the setup. That's the premise. And then I have other things that we can tie with this. So, yeah, any questions, sir? Are you caught
No,
up?
it's just an observation, really, that yeah, like just an observation, really. This is just so typical of, anytime you have a question about whether or not a group is a cult, we'll just look at what A, they're not allowed to talk about, and B, what they don't allow other people to talk about them. Like the fact that they were trying to throw their weight around and get the government to acquiesce to their request to not include them in the thing that proves they did a crime is pretty blatant, honestly. Like, if I were a member of an organization, I heard, of course, and keep this with a grain of salt, because I used to be a cultist and I excused a lot similar things for a long time until I learned better. But that would probably be a little spark in my cognitive shelf saying, hey, wait a minute, why, is this persecution, or, why is my group really trying to keep this quiet? Like, why can't we talk about this? So, if they're not careful, I think that, not for everyone, but for a significant amount of their followers and everything, that might start the wheels turning as to, hey, wait a minute, something might be weird here,
I do know. I think that actually has been something that thankfully a lot of people's wheels are turning. And to be perfectly honest, I think the Jehovah's Witnesses and hopefully other similar like cults are going to start realizing that they're never going to be able to totally control the narrative in this age of technology. You could probably manipulate the hell out of people to the point where they will shut down any thought and critical thinking, which, is part of the training. But that's why I wanted to talk about this logical fallacies in the first place, is because it's part of the building blocks of critical thinking. Critical thinking isn't a magical light switch that you just turn on. It's a skill that you have to hone, and it all comes back to asking questions and not accepting the answer right away either. It doesn't mean the answer is wrong, but it means that if you don't fully understand, if you can't turn around and repeat back the answer, if you can't find, like, if it doesn't logically make sense to you, then keep asking, then keep looking in it, because either it's not real or maybe you just need a little bit more help to understand it. And so that's why we're talking about this. Anyway.
It's almost like a math problem in school when you have to show your work. I really never could do that, but you have to show your work. So it's like you have to reverse engineer the answer to see if you lead back to like the same answer or something.
Yep. Math
they never would accept my explanation of a wizard did it, because that was witchcraft. So
just Jesus with a magic wand. No,
yes.
Doesn't work.
Through Christ, all things are possible. Therefore, the answer is 12.
We don't have all the answers, and when we think we do, it's probably when we're really fucking up.
I actually, and since you brought that up, math, you just made me realize, like, when I was growing up, when I was in like high school especially, I hated math so much. It was so hard for me. And it was because it really is just an exercise in logic at a very, very basic level, using something very benign like numbers. And it didn't occur to me that the numbers are representing concepts, ideas, and that this is just a process of learning a form of logic. And then showing your work is just a way of making sure that you didn't miss a step, or that you didn't accidentally, because, like, we make mistakes, we err as human, and showing your work is just your opportunity to verify that you've gone through and you didn't miss something, and that you've gotten everything, and that it makes sense, and that the answer you get at the end make sense with the problem that you have.
Right.
And that was
It
a
seems
concept
like
that was so hard for me.
Well, and for those of us who like grew up in situations where things weren't shown to us, as to how people got to the conclusions they got to, it seemed like a bit of a waste of time. Like for me, because I was homeschooled in a cult, I never actually cited a source for anything I wrote until I took a college class later, and I had to, because I was just like, oh, you can just state the facts and people can look it up for themselves later or not. It's fine, because that's what my textbooks do. And yeah, so
Right.
I always had an issue with that same thing. Like, why do I have to show my work? Like, that's how math works, right? And no, you actually have to, demonstrate that how you did it, and be able to demonstrate to others how it works, because some things are just facts.
You're right, though. I think there's a lot of times where, especially like if information comes from a source that we trust, we just accept that it's the truth, even if they present no facts. It's like, oh, well, I trust you and you tell me. And it might be harmless, the facts you present or whatnot that I believe. But one day you could be caught up and realize, like, oh shit, that was a problem. That was a problem. I didn't do my research. I'd like when I make videos, I do try to like present information or show the book that I got it from, just to kind of save people, like not a step where like I still want you to do your own research. I'm just kind of giving you information, but at least I'm showing you where you can find the information. Because if you go Googling, you might go down a bad hole.
Sorry.
A hole. No, you're
That could be
you
a
are
good thing.
giving people a step, but you're giving them the step to see if what you're saying is lining up with what you're reading. It's really just more about, I'm presenting you data, I'm presenting you a concept, and here's what I'm using to come up with that. And so whether or not that's a good source, you'll never know until you go to that source and read it. And if I can't find the source that you got it from, now I'm really wondering where the fuck you got information from. And if I can't verify the source and even read that that's what it says. A while ago, when we started this whole show, we were talking about a creationist book that the Jehovah's Witnesses came out with. And there are so many examples in that book that we covered just in the 60 pages we made it to before we gave up.
Every paragraph was riddled.
Well, they would quote a source. They'd say, look, we've got valid sources. Look, we're quoting Carl Sagan.
Right.
But then they take Carl Sagan out of context to prove their point. And so if you go back and you actually read the source, put it in context, and then you're sitting there reading it, and you're like, but that's not what they're saying. You just took the source and then you twisted it to make your own, and they're just hoping you won't read it. Or they won't even quote the source enough for you to find.
Sagan wrote the book The Demon Haunted World, Therefore Demons Are Real.
Demons. He's demonic. He's advocating for demons. That's actually a great book, by the way. If you guys haven't read Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan, and I think it was written in the 90s, obviously, but it's still a little pertinent to today. Some predictions were made, and they're a little scarily accurate. So
I think Christians have made a huge turn. Like, whereas I think things were kind of maybe cooling off and like chilling out a little bit, I feel like it's kind of ramped up again. I don't know why, and maybe it's just my perception, but I feel like they're grasping at straws, seeing that times are kind of changing and that Christianity is starting to die out because people are beginning to think logically, because as you said, the information is out there if you so choose to be brave enough to do the research. And I don't know if that's what's spurring them on this heinous behavior or what.
Well, there's actually a logical fallacy that explains that. I think I was talking about it earlier. It's called the entrenchment effect, also called the backfire effect. And this is a tendency of people who, when presented with evidence that disproves something that they think is true, will often tend to form an even greater attachment to the idea of their idea being true. So it's not only a rejection of the facts of you saying, "Hey, I have this information." It's a complete nope. I'm even more gonna double down on my original belief. I think flat
Entrenchment fallacy?
earthers are kind of in there. I mean, it's probably called multiple different things depending on where you look, but one of the sources I found, an entrenchment, like they're just gonna continue to dig in deep.
Dig deeper in. Put
yes.
that head deeper up the ass.
Yeah.
Keep digging in that ass.
And the ass is a trench when you think about it. Like, you know, it kind of resembles the Death Star.
Okay. Oh, crisis fish. Dan's right.
I know what you're referencing.
That's when we met. That's when we met the crisis fish. Is that book? Yes. Thank you, Jehovah's Witnesses, for inventing the crisis fish. We appreciate it.
We
hail.
love the crisis
Please
fish.
help me understand what a crisis fish is.
Huh?
Help me understand what a crisis fish is.
Crisis fish is the illustration of the first fish coming out of water to land, and it's their illustration, I think. And it just looks like it's in a crisis.
Yeah,
it looks a little alarmed at what it's doing.
But most fish look alarmed when you think about it,
especially when they come out of water.
I can show it to you quickly. Here we go. He's on a backdrop right now, but that's crisis fish.
Yes.
He just looks like he's dazed and confused. Like, what the fuck was I thinking? Now I got to get a job.
What? Yes.
I got to pay taxes. Oh, I'm going back in.
Yeah. Suggestion to rename it to the millennial fish.
No, we're in crisis.
Shit, I'm living in interesting times.
Every damn day, I tell you.
Crisis fish.
It's never ending. Oh yeah, here's the original. He's crawling.
Okay, but that's just sexy.
Oh, wow!
I'm sorry. It's like fish me like one of your French fish.
Hook me like one of your French fish. Yeah, the first time we met the old crisis fish. The fish kept coming out of the water because his wife kept talking to him. And you have to have a break. Like, I'm just gonna go see what's over here.
I never.
I guess I'll just walk out onto the. Oh crap! It worked.
Damn it! Now I have to live here.
Can you go get a job, honey? Just kidding.
Yeah. So just circling back to the New Zealand thing and the, not wanting to get your data published. I feel like that's a logical fallacy. Did we talk about what kind of a logical fallacy that is when you just don't want people to know the truth about you? Is that picking? What is that?
Argumentum ad obscurum.
Explain. I don't remember that one.
Oh goodness, I don't.
Just made
that's
it
a
up.
great question.
Honestly, some of these names, I'm like, you could just tell me that's a thing, and I might believe you.
I'm just making up Latin at this point.
Well, okay, so there's one called, and then there's other names. Remember, there's plenty of alternate names for these things, but there's one that's called the just world fallacy. It's kind of in the corner or the middle corner by cognitive errors. And it's called the tendency to believe bad things happen to bad people and good things happen to good people. And the example they give is like a rapist saying that the victim was out at night in a short dress and therefore deserved it. And
that's just religion.
If God says it's bad, that's appeal to authority. It's the just worldly fallacy all coming together. But it's kind of that, right? Like they're kind of using that as like an excuse for why they're not doing something bad. It's the people, the individuals that are doing bad things. And now I think I'm mixed. I'm going on a different tangent
You
here.
mean like in my case where people keep telling me, well, Jesus didn't hurt you, it's the church. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and everybody says the church is the body of Christ. So I don't know what to tell you on that.
There were some other things they did. Like, I think there were some definitions that the report had made about children being in the care of the church. And Jehovah's Witnesses were arguing that they're never responsible for children. It's always the parents that are responsible. Oh, you pulled this up. Sweet. I should probably read it.
And over here, you can check through each like part of it.
This is their particular part of it, the case study for them.
Yeah, this is like the J-dub part, and then there's like the full report where there was like the apology they were expecting,
Okay, yeah. They had some definitions in there, I think, and they're really just trying to pick it apart, and they're trying to find ways that they're not responsible for what happens. But as I see it, they say what? Jehovah gives dictation to the governing body. The governing body gives dictation to the elders, and the elders give dictation to the congregation. So purely by definition of that, an elder being the shepherd of the flock, aren't they responsible for everybody, whether they're children or not? Because they're saying they're people of authority.
Yes.
But, like, how is that not how are you not responsible? Do you not care about these people enough to try and protect them?
I feel like that's the false dichotomy where they're trying to disprove that they're in charge and have responsibility over children, when, as you said, the directive comes straight from Jehovah to their mouths. They're the mouthpiece of God and the one true mediator between God. So whatever they say is an appeal to authority as well, because they're speaking for God. So I feel like there's a lot in there. In that circle of, and isn't this circle of like logic or something one of the fallacy too? I don't know what it's called.
Is slippery slope kind of a circular logic?
Circular reasoning? I don't know.
Circular reasoning. Hold on. There's a lot. Hold on.
I do love that. During the inquiry period, the faith exercised an elevated degree of influence over the daily lives of members, including how they spent significant portions of their time, the level of education they attained, their relationships, and access to certain medical treatments. 2 witnesses described themselves as being under the control of the faith, a description the faith disputed. Which, I love how the government summary is just like, yeah, so they were controlling all this, and 2 people said they were literally under control, and of course the religion's response was, nah,
not it, not us,
not it. We're not controlling anything. Nose goes.
Look, if it's bad, it didn't happen to us,
And part of the problem is that they're arguing that they're never having children in their pastoral care, which is a lie, because they're instructing and organizing all these different activities, let's just say, that young ones would have to do, like going out in field service where there's a possibility of being alone, like going to the Kingdom Hall where you could be taken into a back room with somebody because you trust them and you have to respect them. But it's so infuriating how they twist it and make it seem like, well, we don't organize these activities, so therefore they aren't in our care. And after looking at all the evidence, New Zealand was like, hello, buddy. We find that to be false. After looking at all your books, magazines, and all the stuff that you put out that they have to follow, that's a lie.
I like Dan's comment that he makes where he says most people wouldn't have even noticed except for the tantrum that they chose. Like, had they not tried to get out of this, probably not many people would have really noticed. But the fact that they tried and pushed back and are using Jehovah's Witness donation money to front their, law and legal fees to get this taken down and then failed, like it's now you're really looping everybody in and you're putting a spotlight on it. So thanks for letting us know, because I probably wouldn't have known about it. So
You drew more attention to yourself.
One of the criticisms that I've heard quite often regarding the cult I was raised in, IBLP, is that IBLP was a decentralized cult that was largely influential in homeschooling, where they would provide curriculums to families and they would homeschool with the curriculums, and then the kids would go off and like work for the cult at their various training centers and all that, right? And one of the criticisms I've heard is that, oh, well, all the abuse that happened wasn't technically IBLP's fault because they weren't raising the kids. They were just equipping the families, with tools to, teach their kids and stuff. And if there was any abuse that happened, it was solely the parents' fault. It was never encouraged by IBLP. When there's literal evidence of IBLP advising on how to administer physical punishment to children. There were minimum requirements for families to be able to participate in the cult, and they had to stick by them to maintain themselves in good standing and everything. And they were being directly controlled, much like, but much like in this situation, when things didn't work out the way they advertised and in a way that made them look bad, they tried to disassociate themselves with it, saying, oh, we're not that controlling. It's not like we're a cult or anything. But then to the people who were in control, they're like, you better do what we say or else. And it's just, at that point, that even goes beyond being a logical fallacy. That's just that's a con. It really is. It is a genuine swindle, and it just serves to control people for profit.
It is a logical fallacy, though. It's an appeal to emotion, force, or threat, an attempt to manipulate the audience's emotion in order to get them to do what you want them to do. So, threatened with your everlasting life, your soul, your eternal damnation. That's scary, right? That's enough to make people do a lot of things. In fact, maybe not even blink also about putting your children in the car with somebody who you're supposed to trust, and they're not a trustworthy person too. And so we're going to blame the parents for that, by the way. That's their fault.
And there was like this, there was this, because, they would always give like these unsourced examples of what would happen if you didn't do these particular things they prescribe. Like, for example, praying a hedge of protection around your family every single day, because apparently, the ultimate protection you can have is a shrubbery that only lives a day, apparently. And they would say things like, well, you had better do it because there was one man who forgot to pray a hedge of protection around his family one day, and they got into a car wreck. Would you want that to happen to your family?
Right.
So
that's the only time it happens.
Yeah, exactly. The only time is because you forgot to do it that particular day, and it's just like, at that point, it's not them, it's not them implicitly saying, we will punish you, but they are invoking a divine fear of punishment from God in order to keep you in line, and you're right. That is that whole appeal to emotion. That's that threat of damnation or failure.
It's also counting the hits and not the misses, because I bet you forgot to do it a lot of times and nothing bad did happen, but you didn't count those, right? You didn't think about those. In fact, you might not have even noticed that those days went by. You only noticed the time that something bad happened. And so you're going to highlight the one time something bad happened and ignore all the times that something bad didn't happen. It's also kind of going back to that just world fallacy, believing that bad things happen to bad people and good things happen to good people. That is so ingrained in, I remember growing up like, oh, I heard somebody got disfellowshipped, and they don't, for privacy's sake, they don't tell everybody what happened, but all it does is just leave your mind to wander about what absolutely horrible thing this person could do, and they deserve it. They deserve whatever's coming to them because they're bad. Not me though. I'm good and I deserve only good things. which is kind of what the whole Jehovah's Witnesses organization is trying to do. They're trying to make it so that nobody knows about the bad things, and they only that way they can associate only good things because they're good, right? They're good, wonderful people who are just what was oh my gosh. We should do this. I found a Google review of the Kingdom Hall I grew up in, and it was quite hilarious, by the way. But there were actual people. I'm like, I know that person, and they're like, this church is so full of like good and nice and honest people. I'm like, you guys are like, you've done nothing but go to this church your whole life. Of course you're gonna say that. I know who you are.
Right. You're not going to say anything different.
Oh.
I am not being forced to write this under a pew
Right.
point.
counting
Yeah,
the
please
time.
let me see my family. It's been 5 days. I've written this review 50 times. Oh, I'm sorry. How did that get there? I'm not good at computer.
So the just world fallacy that bad things happen to bad people and good things happen. And then you see people say the most horrendous stuff to, like, let's say a cancer survivor, or what you like, what is wrong with you? Like, if things don't work like that. Good things happen to bad people and vice versa.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing for people to want to grasp, that life just happens. And I think I've said this before, but my sister was born with multiple birth defects, and I was no stranger to having either overhearing people saying it or people saying it directly in front of me, that my mom must have done something wrong in order for my sister to be born that way. And all kinds of things, like she did it on purpose, she took drugs, like you name it, she's just a bad person, she did something demonic, like you fucking name it. People said stuff. And of course, it's a genetic disorder, so I guess God fucked up is all I can say.
How about we put it on the right person?
It's a developmental disorder from bad genes, I guess. So, yeah.
I was like, I had a hangover, okay?
But it's
See,
also
you
I had a bad day. Gosh.
It also
Not
goes in
usually.
with it also goes in with like something that, hey, Tyler's here. I was going to talk about you. Speak of the devil. It also goes into like, he jokes all the time when I say something that's complicated, that no, that's too hard. Let's just praise Jehovah, right? And that is in itself like kind of a fallacy, right? It's a cognitive misstep of this is too complicated of information. It's too complicated for me to learn about how genetics works and how fetal development occurs to know that something could very easily have gone wrong that had nothing to do with anything my mom did, and that is the result of my sister being born the way she is. But it's just easier to say, nope, God doesn't make mistakes, you must have done something wrong, it's your fault. That's too hard to learn all that stuff. Thanks, Tyler.
Right. Too much science. There's too much science involved. Like, and people don't realize how dangerous pregnancy is in the first place. So yeah, it's easy just to make those kind of calls and place the blame, of course.
Everybody's doing that. How hard can it be?
Always on the person who's pregnant.
That's right. Yeah. So this is why this is good to talk about this stuff. I think just helping you when you confront these kinds of bad arguments, especially when you start getting that ick factor, right? I don't know all the phrases for all the different logical fallacies or cognitive biases, but I've been learning enough about it and reading enough and just being around it long enough that even though I couldn't tell you what one it might be off the top of my head, when I hear it, I'm kind of like, there's something off about this. And I might just take some time and reflect on it instead of reacting, or, end the conversation there and then just take that information and think about it later. But anyway.
I sometimes just like to let them talk as they start digging themselves into a hole, and you can see them, like, because I'll be like, oh, tell me more about that and everything, and then when you see them start to realize that they're kind of setting their own trap, like, I had a brother-in-law who died at work. It was a whole thing, and he was he worked, but he also pastored a church, and he was thinking about leaving that church to go take another pastorate. Well, he died before that could happen. I'll never forget, I was sitting there with my grieving sister, and this other preacher friend comes up, and he was trying to cover her, saying, well, you know what? Maybe God took him so that it would spare the church the hurt of having to have him go pastor somewhere else. And I'm like, yeah, okay, so
What?
okay, so let's fucking kill him because it would hurt too much if he went to go pastor somewhere else, and because the feelings of the people in the church is the whole thing. But you see, that's where this comes from, because you're going with the presupposition that everything God does, again, just world fallacy, everything God does is good, and everything he allows to happen to good people must be for a greater purpose and stuff like that. So either, he sinned, he fucked up somehow, or this is all part of some grand design that we're going to sit here and we're going to, throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and we're just going to hurt grieving people more because, damn it, we got to figure out a way to get God out of this. When God could have just come down and said, hey, my bad. I wasn't looking.
But that's because when you have premises that you have to believe this core premise is true. God is always good. God never makes mistakes. That's where you start coming down the line and you're like, but what about, well, wait a minute. What about, and that's, you either have to completely compartmentalize and then justify something, or hopefully it will launch you to maybe think about it a little bit more and be a little bit more critical about the thinking that you have. But it is just easier to be like, I'll just put that over there. Obviously, that's wrong. I must be wrong. And I don't have the time. Oh, look at the time. It's time to make dinner. We'll just put that over there and not think about that anymore.
I'll put it over there and believe that God is good. Meanwhile, atheist, could you please explain to me every single thing about quantum physics so that you can disprove
Right?
God?
Oh my God! Right? Oh my God! You're so right on how they behave like that. Oh,
if God not good, then why sunshine?
Exactly. Hey, trees.
Look at the trees.
Look at them.
Look, I'm in the South. Trees are fucking boring. Can we all agree that trees are not that special, guys? Like, I see trees all the time. Like, you see one tree, you see a lot. I've seen trees that have like bruises and stuff on them. I've seen trees that are like hollow on the inside and yet still put out leaves. Zombie trees. I think it's kind of creepy and everything. I don't like them. Get rid of them. My thing is, can we shut up about trees? They grow and they do very little else. Like, I've never talked to one.
Like
I didn't do the Pocahontas thing. No. What was that?
I said some bushes grow like trees, but they're not trees. What are they? Where do they fit in this scheme?
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, God had a hangover and was just like, these bushes are tree-like now. I'm out of ideas. Yeah. Oh yeah, or the devil did it. Actually, the burning bush was the devil. We did it, Reddit.
There you go. Well, we're done. All right.
Show's over.
My point is, I don't care about trees. I'm sorry. I used to like trees, but Thea's ruined it for me.
I liked climbing trees when I was a kid. Does that count?
Yeah. Same. I used to love climbing trees.
And then I went through puberty and I got boobs and I was told I couldn't climb trees anymore. And then I was sad.
Oh, hold up.
Boo.
Okay. How can boobs keep you from climbing trees? I have to know.
That's what that's what I was told. And then I remembered I was sad, and then I hated boobs for a really long time because I cursed them because I was now no longer allowed to do I guess tomboyish things. It was like boys, it's something boys do. They climb trees. And so nope, you have boobs now. You're a girl, you can't do those things. And then I hated being a girl and having boobs. I blamed the boobs. It wasn't their fault, to be honest. It was the people.
No.
It was the adults.
It was the small-minded people who thought that way. I probably remember hearing similar things when I was young because I kind of cursed my boobies when they came in, but
Being
it
a
was probably
funny
just
girl
because
is
I was getting
not
attention
easy.
from the pervy old men and didn't like that. It
And
was
I
real
do
life correlation.
then I will recant a little bit to acknowledge my male privilege on being able to not appreciate trees. You know, like I didn't realize what y'all lost, and I do apologize for that. But I still stand that for me personally, I don't care about trees.
Patriarchy!
Patriarchy.
Oh!
That's good.
I honestly think that
didn't mansplain
sometimes I'm
what
too
tree
good at
was to us, though.
compartmentalizing.
Well, I have some other kinds of examples for logical fallacies as well that we could go over if you wanted. I mean, it's still all the same kind of stuff, but just switching gears from religion because we're entering a very interesting political era. I mean, it has kind of always felt like the same. It's just all more of the same, I think, but
Yeah, it's more
probably going to ramp up a little bit.
Yeah,
so
probably.
we're going to hear a lot of them. And I think it doesn't matter who you like or what political spectrum you stand on. They all do it and it's infuriating. And I am annoyed when I hear really bad arguments from any side using logical fallacies for it. And I'm actually especially upset when I'm like, I actually kind of like this, like policies and the things this person doing. You didn't need to do the logical fallacies to get me. And I think it's just a tactic. I hate to say it. A low hanging fruit, maybe the dummies on the bottom, maybe like just to get them interested, to get them, Hey, if it resonates, what can I say? No,
I'm on the bottom.
I
The
resemble
lowbrow.
that remark.
I don't know. I am frustrated with it because I feel like people aren't stupid. And if you have to treat people like they're stupid to make your point, then probably you're either not very good at making your point, or maybe it's not a very good point. And so I'm picking on people I even like. So,
Well, I mean, at this, and I'm with you, and I agree with that. Like, it frustrates me when I hear it too. But here lately, the things that frustrate me more are the ones who do the appeal to emotion and everything, where they're like, and by the way, we are literally battling actual demons right now that are they're threatening to,
You're not wrong. That's fucked up.
infect our brains with brain worms or
that.
something. I don't even know what Tucker Carlson was saying. Oh, did I say that a lot? Like, yeah, stuff like that is
with those arguments. They probably should be the easiest ones to take down because just with a little bit of logic, you can just like disassemble everything. But I just get like, I can't believe you like you really are dumb. Like I want to do
But
the
you
ad
see-
hominem attack because I'm just annoyed that
but you
they're
see,
that
that's
dumb.
the thing. But that's the thing, though. Like, if you are automatically painted as a demon in league with the actual devil, when that ad hominem is firmly planted in everybody's mind, doesn't matter what logic you put out there, it's coming straight from the bowels of hell,
Mhm.
Like, well, that's exactly what Satan would say.
Right.
Or
right.
maybe people are stupid true.
That's what Satan wants you to think.
What I hate about these weaponized fallacies is that that they do turn into thought stoppers. Like they stop critical thinking by design. The people
Right.
who employ them know exactly what they're doing because they work. And like you said, it's frustrating when you hear it because, like, it is low hanging fruit and it's the easy way to get things out there, even if it may not be 100% true. But at the same time, we're in a state right now where the 5-second soundbite rules the day, and people are relying more and more on these fallacies to get things across, and I hate it.
And this, like the fallacies, when I first learned about it in my like very first quarter of freshman year of community college, Psych 101. And the reason that I we obviously we went over in other things too, because like there was literature classes where we had to write and form our own arguments on paper, and so of course there were those kinds of things that came up. But I was really appreciative of it coming up in the context of psychology, because then right after that we then learned about the cognitive parts of the brain, the biological parts of the brain, how we think, how we process information, how our brains fill in gaps sometimes, like scotomas. Our brains can create sounds, can create sight, like visions, hallucinations, right? Like there's things that our brains can just, it's confused. It's trying to make sense of what it's seeing, hearing, and feeling, and the sensory information that's coming in. And sometimes it doesn't do it very well, or we need to be trained a certain way to understand it. And so it all kind of overlaps in why we do these logical fallacies or why they work. Why advertisements, people who do advertisements, they know psychology really well. They know human
down to
behavior
the colors,
really well.
down to the fonts that they use.
The fonts, the layout, the coloring, the appeal to emotion, the like
You can sell anything with papyrus.
Not New Roman times.
Wingdings. That's the secret bypass to all the cognitive stuff there. You can hide secret messages and that shit.
But it's true. The layout, the way things visually look, there's just certain things, even human faces, right? They've done studies where like they've lined up people's faces and people have decided that somebody looks like a bad person. That person looks evil. That person looks good just because they have more.
I told them to stop using my picture, but yeah, go ahead.
But we don't even realize we're doing it unless we learn that it's something we do. Even the concept of like cherry picking information. Or I mentioned the entrenchment effect, or well, maybe not the entrenchment effect, but there's one called the expectation bias, the tendency of people to put greater trust or credence in experimental results which confirm their expectations than in results that don't. So if you're expecting something, you're gonna kind of look more that. I mentioned the maybe that's kind of more about the expectation bias, but like counting the hits and not the misses, right? Seeing patterns where maybe they're patterns that, they're patterns, but you're looking for those patterns. You're trying to find those patterns. And they might not actually be statistically significant patterns, but you've discounted all the time you didn't. What's that?
Iridola? I don't know how you pronounce it. I've only seen it written down. The tendency to see patterns such as faces or words and random stimuli as well.
This one right here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like related to that.
The Jesus in the toast. It's holy. I see his face. In clouds, when you look up in the cloud and you're like, oh, I see this shape, or the face on the moon that people used to see. We're just pattern recognizing.
Our brains processing, like you said, the information that we're receiving and trying to determine whether or not something is safe. A human is perceived as safe, a situation, why butterflies have eyes on their wings to make it look as though they're dangerous when in fact they're not.
Yeah, to hide that they're not an animal that's got eyes this big, that it's really just a butterfly. Yeah, things, camouflage of sorts to kind of mimic other animals, or even like snakes that aren't poisonous that look like poisonous snakes. Is it the king snake and the corn snake or something? I'll be so amazed if I got those two right.
Hognose is a good example too.
What's that one?
That's the one that kind of looks like a rattlesnake, but it actually is not as venomous as a rattlesnake. It will pretend to be a rattlesnake, and when that doesn't work, it plays dead.
Gotcha. Yeah. Those are all instincts to survive, right? To improve your odds, as it were. But but yeah, anyway, like the more you look into those kinds of things, the more it makes sense that we do these things. This whole list of cognitive biases or logical fallacies. And so we're all susceptible to it, right? I even started writing down the ones that I thought I was most susceptible to doing. It really depends on the situation though. Because I've
That's a
been
good
guilty of all
idea.
of these at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at these and I'm going like, damn, I make these fucking terrible fallacies all the damn time. Like,
Well,
oh,
that's because you're a horrible person. Sorry, Adam.
You got me there, bub.
Yeah. Look, won't someone think of the children before you start
Yes.
doing this? Oh,
Right before you bring out that fallacy, think of the children. Children.
Oh, it just shit. Oh, what is it called? The prosperity gospel or
Prosperity
Yeah.
gospel, yeah. Uh-huh.
that's kind of the same idea, right? Like good things happen to good people. They wouldn't be billionaires if God didn't bless them, right? And they must be very blessed because that's a lot of money.
Exactly. And they can tell you how to be
Yeah.
blessed and get money too if you send
And
them
that's the
seed money to
the
expand the
perception that
ministry.
they're doing something right. So
Yeah.
you want to listen to whatever advice that they'd
Or
give
buy
you.
their books that tell you how you too can
Right.
be a millionaire.
But
Yeah.
How
that's
to
one of
sell
the
books to
MLM.
people and make money. Yeah. Oh, an
Like,
MLM.
really,
Yes,
it's just a
definitely.
big MLM. Like, really, I think that's all religions are, is just a sacred form of MLM. They're selling you
Well,
something.
it's not really so much like a classic MLM as it's kind of like a upside
No.
down funnel. Yeah, it's like, it's just narrow
Right.
at the very top, and then
Mhm.
like all the followers go down to the bottom. It's not like a pyramid scheme or an MLM. It's just, it just looks very much like it is. Actually,
Right. There's not people at the top
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Obviously, Jehovah's Witnesses have 8 people, so it's a wide top. You
Yes.
see, and then it
Yeah,
gets wider.
One. They're not really a cult. It's not one person.
Exactly.
What is that? A tetragram? No, what is that called? When there's like a isosceles? No, I don't fucking remember. Isosceles triangle? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Stupid. When there's like a flat portion.
Collateral. Oh. Right angle. What?
Oh, you're so sweet.
Aww.
Oh, seed money. All right. Let's see.
We will bless you for that. Consider yourself blessed.
For your blessings. May you never fall for a logical fallacy again.
Yes.
Build a hedge of protection around Dandy, but just for tonight because it'll be tomorrow soon. And hedges don't last very long. Apparently.
And God, and
Circle
the
breathing.
blessings only last a full 24-hour period because that's just how it works.
No refunds.
One
Unless
rotation.
you bring us a shrubbery.
That's on fire.
This is a Monty Python thing because I keep thinking of a shrubbery. The knights who say "nee." Oh, I gotta watch that one too. Let's see. I gotta show you guys. Hold on a second. I'm gonna pull this one up.
I really
Sorry,
want
but
to
I distracted you with my bush. That was the whole thing.
I really want to try the rhyming effect and see what I can do with it.
Oh, you can do a lot with the rhyming effect. We love symmetry. We love rhymes. I was reading about one that they did a study, and I'm doing this off the top of my head. I didn't write this down because I just remembered it. But essentially, they took the same phrase, and it was something along the lines of being sober reveals what sobriety conceals what alcohol reveals. And they did that statement. Wow, I can't believe I remember that. And then they did it exactly the same statement, but it's like sobriety reveals what alcohol unmasks. And they had those two different phrases. That's all it was. And more people voted that the one that rhymed was true than they voted that the one that didn't rhyme was true. But they mean the exact same thing. Who knows if it's actually true? But which isn't, by the way, doesn't mean it's true. If a lot of people say that something is true, does not mean that it's true. That's also another fallacy of appealing to the bandwagon, appealing to the populace. But the fact that more people
Popular.
didn't recognize that they were the same exact statement, one was more true than the other, just simply because it rhymed. We like rhymes. We like it. What can I say? Anyway, sorry, I just totally went off of that.
I'm just trying to think of rhyming things that are untrue.
Let's see. Oh wait, no, not that one. Hold on. I was gonna share a couple of advertisement ones. You want to share the? I like this one. As a doctor, more doctors smoke Camels. So you know. And the fact that doctors smoke Camels means they're better than the other cigarettes. Nobody thinks cigarettes are bad, by the way.
As a doctor, not only do I prefer it, I recommend it.
No doctor in the history of anything has ever done anything unhealthy.
Right. Doctors don't do unhealthy habits at all. Yeah, no, that's not a thing.
Oh my gosh, right? So
I thought they talked about the appeal to authority using celebrity endorsements, and I just got to show you the example that they had was brilliant. You guys remember the Trump steaks? Really, anything he was ever sold. He did not invent them. He did not create them. He just slaps his name on them and then charges quadruple the amount of money that they could possibly be worth.
I would be willing to put down good money that he didn't actually pose with steaks. They just got him pointing at something, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll Photoshop some steaks in later, or some used shoe leather. Oh, look, we're going to put ketchup on it anyway. It's fine. Like just pretend like there's something there. Pretend like you're pointing to." Yeah, pretend like you're pointing to your favorite parts of Ivanka. I don't know, man. Like, just do stuff.
Pretend like you're pointing to your daughter.
Yeah, exactly. Show us on the doll where you never mind. Show us on this Ivanka doll. Okay.
She's the one that's buried at the golf course, right?
Oh no, that's his daughter. Ivana
that's
was
his
the
daughter.
Okay, right.
But was it her mom? Whose mom? I don't remember who that was. Yes,
Ivana. That was the one who's buried on the golf course.
That's right, Ivana. That's right.
So interesting. Their names are similar.
Here's a bandwagon one. Everyone wants this. What was I thinking? McDonald's, over 1 billion sold. It wouldn't be sold if it wasn't amazing. The most amazing thing in the world.
The preferred brand of doctors, not to mention they get a kickback for using the product and recommending it to people. Oh, well, we don't have to tell you that part.
Speaking of which, that used to be an issue. A bigger issue. I'm not saying there aren't ways around these things, that somebody's finding ways around it, but like there are anti-kickback laws from Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare, both, whatever. Basically putting in rules that prevent physicians from getting money for prescribing a medication. So, I could say, oh, I'm going to prescribe this medication, and then I get a bunch of money, or I get to go on a trip or something, so there's definitely, they've happened, right? We're humans. And so it happens, and there's laws in place to try and prevent it. But I think it's important to be aware of those things. Then they have this one. What's that?
And there's ways around it, of course.
Of course, there's always ways around it. You can look up how much money physicians have gotten, because they have to report it. And so you can look up a doctor and see if they've ever gotten money for something. And how much money they got. It has to be like down to a drug rep came in and bought us lunch from Subway,
Yeah.
and I got a Subway sandwich. Like those things have to be on there. So
Right.
this one is misinterpreting cause and effect.
Also, like, sorry, slight
Celebrity.
aside. If someone brought me a Subway sandwich, I'd probably be offended. But anyway, go ahead.
Right?
Did you not spring from Publix?
Gosh.
Now the good drug reps take you to the fancy restaurants. So
Yeah, they usually spring for the good stuff. I do miss working at a hospital. Anyway.
and
I used to work in hospital IT. We were next to the morgue. It was great. No one bought us anything.
Your neighbors are quiet.
Yeah, but sometimes they would leave people out in the hallway, and I'd be like, "Hey, can we move this? I've got monitors to deliver. This is weird."
Oh.
Yikes.
Pharmacy was always in the basement too. Yeah, IT, pharmacy, we were all shoved in the basement. Yeah, windowless.
Outside out of mind.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyways, I think you guys get the idea.
Okay. I will hear no Terry Crews for Old Spice slander, because that actually did make me look like that for like 5 minutes.
Did it? Yeah. When you sprayed it on, you were like, and how long did it last? This isn't wear. It just wears off real quick.
When I regained consciousness, it was not that great, but yeah.
I thought that was Axe body spray that makes you lose your consciousness.
Look, if you have some Old Spice, like that will, I do not endorse that. YouTube, calm down.
Anyway, that's pretty much all I had for that one. Other things, so things to look out for in the political arena that you'll hear, the most common ones, I looked these up. The red herring fallacy, which is also known as the misdirection smokescreen, clouding the issue beside the point, and apparently the Chewbacca defense, which I really want to know where that comes from.
Oh, I heard that one.
That's great.
Just now.
Basically changing the subject.
True.
All the time. That's every debate I've ever seen. Every direct question.
Subject.
I don't know. I don't get why that's on there, but it's just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was from South Park. I remember now.
Oh, it is. What is?
Yeah. So the name Chewbacca Defense comes from Chef Aid, an episode of the American animated series South Park. The episode, which premiered October 7th, 1998, satirizes the O.J. Simpson murder trial, particularly attorney Johnny Cochran's closing argument for the defense. In the episode, a fictionalized version of Cochran bases his argument on a false premise about the 1983 film Return of the Jedi. He asked the jury why a Wookiee like Chewbacca would want to live on Endor with the much smaller Ewoks when it does not make sense. He argues that if Chewbacca living on Endor does not make sense, and even if mentioning Chewbacca in the case does not make sense, then the jury must acquit. I mean, okay, honestly, I see it though.
Oh my God, that's such a leap.
Okay, lawyers have got to be very well versed on logical fallacies and hoping that you as the jury don't catch on and that you don't know these things, because they're going to use it to their advantage, because their only goal is to win, right? So not surprised.
Well, actually, I have a good example of that. So I was a juror once, right, in a really boring civil case. I won't go into the whole details, but the whole point was the person who was suing has sustained injuries from a car accident. She had initially been billed this much by the hospital. She didn't have insurance. She talked him down to a lower amount. And now her lawyer wanted her compensated for the higher amount that she didn't pay, because she apparently missed out on money somehow by negotiating a lower amount. It was a convoluted argument. But her lawyer, in his closing arguments, told the jury, like, so this is an important case for various reasons. You, the jury, will decide the future of all such cases like this, because we lawyers, we have to determine these proper amounts by a very set formula. And if you deviate from that formula, we'll have to change how things are done through this entire state. He is waxing eloquent about the importance of what we're doing today. And then when the judge gave us instructions, she's like, so in the state of Alabama, the jury decides what gets paid. It's totally y'all's decision. Just, whatever you think is correct, just take it into consideration. Yeah, come back with a verdict. So basically everything he said was bullshit.
Right. He didn't have anything better to say.
Judge was like,
misdirection,
yeah.
But also an appeal to an emotion or threat a little bit too, because you guys, if you fuck this up, you'll fuck up for everyone ever again. So red herring fallacy. Every politician I've ever seen, I swear to God, this is just the handbook. This is day one. Never actually answer the question somebody's asking you. Answer a different question that will make you look better. I saw somebody do this, a politician. I don't even remember the guy's name. He's someone from Tennessee, and he was trying to make a comment. He was asked a question, and he didn't answer the question. Instead, he was like, well, I'm really from Tennessee, unlike that J.D. Vance guy. And
I know Scotsmen were from Tennessee.
That was his whole point. And I was like, okay, I might not like that JD Vance guy, but I also don't like you now because you had an opportunity to tell me why I should like you. And instead you gave me a reason for why I shouldn't care about you because your only goal is to make other people look bad. Mm-hmm. So that's not good. Like, this is why politics doesn't work. This is why we can't get anything done. Cause all we're doing is it's the what is it? The Spider-Man, the
Spider-Man.
The Mexican standoff. Everybody's pointing at somebody else.
Well, the thing is, though, you would say that because you're a doctor with all your book learning.
My fancy book learn. You can learn everything I know. Just Google it, right?
I didn't need no book learning. Like, I'm actually from Alabama, and I know everything I need to know. I can do your job just by going out in the woods and fishing for trout. Can you run a trout line? I thought not. Therefore, I'm right. And I win this argument. What were we arguing about?
A red herring, not trout. You lost.
Damn it. Got me on my skeezies.
Argument.
That's right. A technicality.
Got me right in the bass.
One of my favorite lines from Futurama is when he's like, you're technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. Actually, if anybody wants to go to my YouTube page, that is probably one of the only videos I have up is me clipping that exact part of him saying that from Futurama. So that is my contribution to the internet. You should go check it out. Another one, obviously, this sounds like the squirrel defense. I need to know what the squirrel defense is.
It's probably the same name for something that we know.
I don't like it because it forces you to look at the trees, and I've already established that I'm not looking at any more goddamn trees.
Is it the change of subject one? No?
Could be.
Dan, tell us. It's not on this list, I don't think.
No, it's
also,
not on the
neighbors
list.
hate
But you can name them anything, right? These are just colloquial terms for a concept. So call it whatever you want. Just it's the concept that matters. Trying to redirect people when they're red herring is very, I think, key. So if you were doing a debate or if you were a person asking a question, like reporters who are trying to ask a politician a question. Sometimes they're purposefully throwing out a question that allows them to do this, right? Because it suits everybody's perspective. But if you were genuinely wanting to get information, you have to just pin them down and be like, wait a minute, you didn't really answer the question and keep going. Which is sometimes then they'll react emotionally.
See, that's the thing. You keep trying to bring up ancient history.
History.
You need to move on from the past. Yeah.
You're just a whore.
That moment has moved on. Exactly. You're a history whore. You're a whore story, if you will.
Not a herstory.
Nice. Straw man fallacy. Yep. Totally, definitely gonna be in the political arena constantly. Straw man argument is an intentional misrepresentation of an opponent's position so that you set up an easy false target for the speaker to knock down. When we
My
were
opponents are
reading
demons.
what's that?
My opponents are demons.
That's right.
Or they're
That's right.
being led by demons.
The example that this article gave was pro-abortion lobbyists oppose waiting periods and sonogram requirements because they favor abortion on demand. And abortion on demand means eliminating all consideration of the unborn child as well as the woman's health. It's like, wow. That's not at all why people are opposed to that, but okay. So it's basically saying, I know what your argument really is, and I'm going to misrepresent your argument so that I can. It's saying that evolution says that we come from monkeys, and that isn't actually what evolution says. But it's an easier thing to show how stupid it sounds. So if you can make their argument sound stupid, start with that. And so it's a little bit of that.
Like the went right in my head and went out. So ignore.
It happens to be. That's another way to not answer the question. Way to go, Chad.
Exactly.
That's a good one, though. Don't answer the question. Distract them with a different answer.
Yeah.
We'll attack Medicare.
Yeah. I mean, anything that Donald Trump's ever said is kind of a real
was
question.
Biden, but I think he misspoke.
Yeah, all of them.
And we're going to attack Medicare. I'm like, maybe no. Oh well.
Another one is the slippery slope fallacy, also known as absurd extrapolation, thin edge of the wedge. Never heard that. Camel nose under the tent. Never heard that either.
Whoa.
Slippery slope. I've heard of many other things the slippery slope is called. An argument is a version of a red herring. It specifically is a claim that a policy which takes a small step in one direction will lead to a chain event of things that will be drastic. So if we let the gay people marry, then the entire family structure of all of civilization will collapse and no children will ever be born.
Which, on a related note, the comedy music duo Garfunkel and Oates had a really good response to that in a song called Sex with Ducks. Yeah. Well worth your time.
Are they the ones with the poop hole loophole one?
Yes.
Or yeah, the backdoor loophole.
Yeah, they were talking about yeah. This song was about Pat Robertson saying if the gay marriage was legal, then people would be having relations with ducks, and they explore that concept in the song, and it is absolutely phenomenal. And one of them actually went on to do a voice in DuckTales, which I find hilarious. So there you go.
Art imitates art.
Yeah. A spoiler, DuckTales is specifically mentioned in the song too, which I was just like, that's just brilliant.
Since I have been of voting age, I have paid attention to elections and stuff as they come up, and every single election, the same slippery slope argument is portrayed on both sides. Honestly, this election is the most important election of your life. And if you do not vote for this candidate, then the world will collapse. And I'm seeing civil war will occur. I'm hearing that a lot lately. If Trump doesn't get to be president, then we'll have to be a civil war because we'll never, ever get another Republican in office ever again. If you don't vote for the Democrat candidate, then we'll be immediately pushed into fascism and the whole world will collapse. And, I don't think it's going to be quite that dramatic either way. And I feel like it just hyperbolizes. Is this a word? We're way out of control here. And every one of them has felt the same as all the other ones before. So I think that's my least favorite slippery slope argument that I hear every single election.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like, Christian nationalism itself, like I have not seen it at the forefront more than this election, except for when I was actually in the cult and they were saying these things behind closed doors. So that's the only thing that really, like gets me hyped up so much on, what could be considered a slippery slope this time. Cause I'm just like, I got out of that stuff and it keeps following me like a bad horror movie. So maybe, let's take decisive action against the weird Christian national fascist thing right now. That would be awesome. But at the same time, I do feel like that whole thing of, treating it like some kind of, Super Bowl football game where everything is at stake in this thing and all that. If you keep saying it every single year, you are in fact going to, negate the. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. It's
I was
like,
just going to say,
it's the hype for every single time and all that. And then when it actually does matter and all that, people are going to be fatigued from it. Maybe that's the point.
Right.
Yeah.
Alert fatigue, as it were. You can't be on alert all the time. You'll eventually tire out.
Yeah. Honestly,
well, actually,
everything's
screw you. I have an anxiety disorder. I'm on alert 24/7.
Yeah, I feel that.
How's it going for you?
It's all intentional. The system is not flawed. The system is working as intended. So yeah, you're meant to just eventually kind of tune out. They want you to.
Mission failed successfully.
Yeah. And I'm just going to pause really quick and just make sure government is huge, right? Government is the people. Let's face it. If people don't do stuff, then, that affects how things work. So as much as we want to kind of like say it's these big nameless things, I'm not saying they're not involved and that there's definitely the amount of money, the amount of corporations, all this is definitely influencing people. But it's still the people, right? And so there are a lot of people, I think, in government who maybe aren't even voted in, right? Like there are people who are just expertise in their field that are filling in certain areas, and they're doing the bulk of the work of keeping things running. I think Donald Trump's presidency, when he was president, was a perfect example of people just saying, no, I'm not going to do that. There were a lot of people who were just like, you're asking me to do something and I'm not going to do it. Some of them did, and a lot of them went to jail because he was asking them to do things that were illegal. And it's, they get to go to jail, not him, of course. And there were a significant amount of people who refused to do that. And so I think that it's easy to put nameless, like a nameless blank face on there. But I do think there's a lot of people who go into these positions who really genuinely are trying to do good things. But they're probably not the faces that we see. They're not the politicians who are raising the money and on CNN and things like that. They're nameless, faceless people that are just trying to do their job. So I don't remember why I wanted to bring that up. It's complicated is what I'm trying to say. It's more intricate.
Everything's complicated.
I think what Dr. Time Waster is trying to say is that there are faceless monsters that are all going to kill us all because, that's the world I live in, and that's my interpretation.
You heard what you wanted to hear, and
this is my mansplanation, and it's really a strong man argument when you think about it. It's a strong man, yeah.
Yeah. Well, begging the question.
That begs the question.
Yeah. That one's That's another one. Begging the question, assuming the initial point, chicken and the egg, circular reasoning. These are all kind of other terms for it. But in an argument, it's the conclusion is assumed in one of the argument's premises, and that is And that premise is not supported by independent evidence. Often called circular reasoning, it begins and ends at the same place. So like
Not
the
as good all the
example,
time, therefore, yeah.
The example, the political example they gave was our Second Amendment rights are absolute. So gun laws are illegal. Oh, gun control laws are illegal. So making any kind of law against who can do it is illegal because the premise is that they're an absolute, which I really don't think anything should be absolute in this country. But
Are you absolutely sure? Okay.
Kind of.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Yes, that's right. Actually, is that a fallacy? Like dealing in absolutes? Because like
Some people was absolutely sure of that.
Ow.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Right. I try not to speak in, and I fail a lot. I just did it. I always try to not speak in absolutes.
I do it all the time.
Always and never.
Like, why do you do that? You should have said, sometimes or
I've tried a
possibly.
million times not to exaggerate, and it just never works.
It's hard.
Right.
I mean, we're millennials, so everything about our language is about awesome. It's the most. It's the best.
It slays.
Yes.
It
but that was
literally
reading...
goes out and unlives things. It slays. Okay. Someone stop it. It's faceless.
I was reading something that the Jehovah's Witnesses put out, and they were talking about the Bible, and they were saying, I'm just going to read this little tidbit here where they said, in fact, there is nothing in the Bible that contradicts scientists' various estimates on the age of the universe or the earth. And they do this throughout this particular article where they keep talking about always and never, and there's nothing, and you couldn't possibly. And I'm sitting here going, there's lots I can think of, so I don't know what they're talking about nothing. But that's definitely something that always sends up a red flag to me. Obviously, I just said I do it a lot. And so we as friends talking, if you said, oh, I did that a million times, I don't really believe that you did it a million times. In context of the conversation, I can weed that out. But some arguments are posed in such a way that it's designed to make you think that is something that could never happen or always happens. And I think just we're so desensitized to that we believe it at some point. Like we can't tease out it's not really always, it's not really never. It's actually, there are times that doesn't work, or there are times life is always so complicated, you guys. It's never all one thing. I don't know.
I think we just suffer from a chronic condition called, I think we suffer from a chronic condition called being human. And that's where a lot of this comes in at,
Probably.
Very true.
Probably.
It's true. We're yes.
Sometimes I human.
Yep.
Quite often.
I human all the time. I've human a million times.
The last one that this political fallacy one called out was the post hoc fallacy. It's from the Latin phrase, it's the post hoc ergo propter hoc, which means after this, therefore because of this, or also known as the false cause fallacy. It's the argument where post hoc argument is one where the speaker confuses correlation with causation, specifically that because on an event followed by another, the first event caused the second. So like the example they gave is schools that teach Latin have higher test scores. Therefore, if we establish a school that teaches Latin, it will improve students' achievements.
And I do want to correct you a little bit too, because there is also recently gotten a new name. It's called the Hawk-Tuah fallacy.
Do tell.
Yeah. If if you spit on that thing, okay.
I fucking love that.
You just gotta clean the fallacy up a little bit. That's all. It goes down easier.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. One more thing. I'm gonna just lead in really quickly to something that we'll do next week, I think, because it's like 8:30. Hold on 2 seconds. So if you guys remember from a long time ago, we once upon a time started this whole thing off because we were debunking sort of or just really reading a Jehovah's Witness publication.
Yes.
And that publication here, where is it? It wasn't this one, but it was similar to this one. It was the book
Looks like a
that they had
hemorrhoid.
created. It's your
Am I
brain
wrong?
synapse firing. The creation, evolution, or creation book. And it was like 300 pages long, and I think we only got to page 60 before we just couldn't handle it anymore.
Packed out.
And it was brought to my attention, and Alpha Sub, this is why I didn't want to go over this today. Alpha Sub was gifted this very important document. And it's basically like totally summarizes everything in that book in like 30 pages. So we should have done this a long time ago. But essentially, I wanted to kind of go through this a little bit, and we could kind of practice our fallacy skills and stuff, and maybe compare a little things. And let's see. It's, the origins, 5 questions worth asking. And so these are the 5 questions that are totally worth asking. What's that?
I said, is this creationist porn?
Ooh. Wait, the picture?
No, just that, for them, like, oh, yes, tell me how life got here.
Tell me what questions.
Tell me how to look at the trees.
Tell me how to look at the trees.
Oh, that's such a young Earth.
I guess when I first heard this, I was thinking, I wonder what 5 questions I would ask. And so I already scrolled down to them. But one, we could think about what questions would we rather ask, which is kind of what I've already started to do. But also go through this and pick out the logical fallacies. What I've also done is, because I haven't read this. Keep in mind, I have not read this. All I did was I read this first page, which whatever I've already showed you, so I'll just come back to it. I read this page, and then I noticed the bibliography in the back, so I just jumped straight back to the bibliography, and I caught a couple crossovers from the old book. Let's see, when were they? A couple from 1981, some 1989, 1979. And if you recall the other book, I went through the bibliography on that too, and it had a lot of stuff from like the 50s, and nothing was before. I think the most recent thing they had was like 1984. And so I went to the back of the bibliography on this, and they found some new things. I'm very, very proud of them. This publication, I think, came out in 2010. I was a little sad. A lot of them were still like 10 years old from when they did it, but that's fine. Whatever. It's an improvement.
Well, it's not like anything happened 10 years later that would cast any doubt on how, the world works or anything like that.
Right. Which was my argument from the last one, which was, you're saying this is so not plausible, and then it's from like 60 years ago, from the time they wrote the publication. It was like that. You couldn't have found something that was more modern to the point you were trying to make. And see, like they had made a comparison. I don't know if you guys remember, of the human eye being so much better than anything a camera could capture.
Yeah.
And it really didn't stand the test of time now that we've got lots of digital cameras, the James Webb Space Telescope. I mean, like we got.
I have to say, we can literally see into the past now. Like my eye can't do that.
I think the human eye isn't the most amazing thing ever. So So I also have kind of listed out a couple of this is my predictions based on kind of just jumping to the bibliography in the back and just reading these questions up here. I haven't read anything else in here. And I have a couple of predictions of what I think we're going to see as far as what kind of logical fallacies we'll find. And if you want, I'll hold myself accountable here. Hold on, you guys will see my terrible handwriting. This is what I do. Chicken scratch. There. I'll hold myself accountable so I don't cheat. Because I haven't read it. This is just like, I know this isn't the whole list. Believe me, I went through a ton of them and I was like, these are probably the ones that I'm gonna see. And I had to write little things like, this is the pattern seeking one, so that I remembered what they were. But false analogy, that expectation bias, a confirmation bias, those straw man fallacies, just false dichotomies, loaded questions, argument from scripture, obviously, literally, appealing to authority and emotion and ignorance. The cherry picking, attention bias is kind of similar to cherry picking, so I kind of just lumped them together. That black swan effect. Black swan effect was the tendency to discount or discredit information which falls outside of a person's particular range of experience. Well, I've never seen that happen, and therefore it doesn't seem plausible to me.
Right.
Which I can see them making that. So anyway, if anybody wants to join us next time, and you also would like to have fun with this, obviously it's not hard to find. You go to this is me going, I don't like your stupid questions, I have better questions. But you can go to their library and just type in the title, which was, I don't even remember, The Origin of Life, 5 Questions Worth Asking, and you just Google it and you can find it. Anyways,
here's my question. Like,
yes,
the argument ad nauseum, is that the part where they just, come to your door like every Saturday at like 6 a.m. and knock and all that, even though you tell them to go away?
I mean, yes. It's also
Okay.
every Kingdom Hall meeting you've ever been to where they're just literally beating you over the head with the Bible. Ad nauseum is repeating something is true over and over again, even after it has been shown to be false. Like Donald Trump saying that he lost the election. That's, is a good example of, he just says it's true. Nope, it's true. I lost. It was stolen. I won, and it was stolen. And if you just say it long enough, you will even start to believe it. Which I have examples of that in my own life. I used to tell a story about my middle name, and I used to say my parents named me this middle name. I don't want to say it. Oh no, wait! I've already told you guys my middle name.
I told y'all my middle name.
My middle name's Jane, and I used to tell people, because I've told you guys to call me Jane too if you want. I used to tell people that my middle name was Jane because of Calamity Jane, and that's not true. But I remember at one point I told people that so much because I thought it was so cool, that I actually started to believe that was true. And I remember my mom had tell me, like, that's not why we named you that. I had convinced myself of it because I thought it was so cool and I had said it so many times. So it's possible.
Self-fallacied.
I did it to myself. So I'm capable of it. Just, I have to admit it. So
It happens.
Anyway.
Actually, I think I can guess why you were named Jane.
Oh, can you?
Jehovah.
But
That's for you, Tyler.
Everyone in my family, most of my siblings have J names. So I think
Because
you're onto
Jehovah.
something. I think you're onto something.
Also, your folks really wanted to be the Duggars.
Really? Thank you, Dad. Love you. Well, thank you everybody for coming and hanging out with us. We'll meet back next week, and we'll grudgingly dig up some Jehovah's Witness literature. We'll see if we should see if AI can write better ones. Ooh, force AI to read a bunch of Jacob stuff,
Okay,
and
well,
then
let's pick like, what would you want it to do? We want it to write a.
I don't want it to do it, actually.
I wanted to write a hit Broadway musical about the beginning of the world as told from the perspective of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes, we need our own Book of Mormon version musical, right? Like the governing body, a musical.
Hello, my name is Prince, and I would like
Oh, like almost like a cosmology of the Jehovah's Witnesses, like their creation.
That's ugh.
And it starts in 1999.
It would be such a boring story, you guys.
Oh, we could take a JW article and then just ask AI to write that same JW article based off that topic, and just read a section and see if you can tell which one is the AI and which one is from the JWs.
That's good. I like it.
Or rewrite it as if it was written by a Mormon and see how different it is.
Right. Now pick a Mormon. Oh man,
that's funny.
Probably not much different.
I
mean, you see one collab, you're like, got him.
If you look at the apologetics surrounding like evolution specifically, they don't come up with anything new. They all steal from each other. It's the same arguments over and over, and they're just it's that ad nauseum. Just if you say it enough. I mean, they made a whole museum in Tennessee. Where did he? Kentucky. What's his face? He made the Noah's Ark Museum.
That's in Kentucky. Yeah, that's
garbage that isn't true. It like is just not scientifically true.
Look, down here in Alabama, we have the better one. We have Dr. Dino.
Oh, I didn't know that one existed. That one's better.
Oh, Kent Hovind? Yeah.
Wait, that's
recently got a Behind the Bastards episode. It's worth listening to.
Isn't Kent Hovind the one that? Wait, who did the? No, Ken Ham. That's who I'm thinking of. Whatever. But they all sound the same to me. Whatever.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining today, Chad, and filling in for the subbing for the subs.
Yes, thanks for subbing for the sub.
Oh, thank y'all. Love y'all.
Where can people find you, please?
You can find me in Alabama. It's kind of a large state, so look very closely. You can also find me on the TikToks as Archradish. I'm keep trying to like make videos, and I'm really darn busy right now. But I'm Archradish on TikTok, and I'm Archradish85 on Instagram. Check me out.
Yeah, please do.
Sounds good.
Oh, also, I'm on Shiny Happy People. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was like a whole documentary on a major television channel. Yeah.
As seen on a very repetitive commercial that Amazon put out for a while. But yeah.
That's right. You were in the ad.
Emotional. I was the first face you saw, and I was just like, well, that's weird. I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Right, your face just popping up.
Yeah. It was a really weird experience for a while.
I bet.
Hey, but you opened a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, it's good to hear it too. Well, not just for opening up people's eyes, but validating other people's feelings and experiences as well. I think that's a big part of it too, because it's very validating for people who weren't even in that particular one, because there's so much that's kind of copy paste across the board. So good job.
Good point.
Well, thank y'all for what you're doing.
Oh yeah, well, we try. Me like trying to put it together after I got off work, and all right, well, thank you.
I'm learning.
Thanks everybody for coming out and hanging out, and thank you, Dan, for the seed. We will plant it, and it won't grow into a tree because Chad doesn't like trees, but it will. we will bless you with no logical fallacies this week. So,
all right, guys, have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for coming.